Hello everyone. I'm going to hold off on the usual introduction for now, because this is post-commentary, and I will pass it off to myself in live commentary mode in a few minutes. But first, we have a few PvP matches that I wanted to show off. Not so much duels, because as you'll see, the first invasion that we got was actually a gank. And a very strange and interesting one at that, in that the host essentially goes into turtle mode the entire time. And I think this is either the first or the second time I invaded this particular pair. But I invaded them a few times after that. Unfortunately, the invasion I had where I was successful in killing the host, I did not get on film because I forgot to actually record that invasion. And that was really annoying because it was a really satisfying kill, where the host turtled up near the fog gate, presumably trying to summon their friend, who was wielding, I believe, a life hunt scythe, and I kicked the host off the ledge. And we are trying to get 3 victories so that we can get our hands on the Ring of Fog, and then we'll be done with the forest invasions. So, even though it won't be shown here because I forgot to record it, silly me, that was victory. After that was victory number 1. And here, I'm doing what I tend to do when I invade and something like this happens. When a second force hunter or an invader jumps in, I usually step aside and let them duel it out. And so this here was probably the closest thing I got during my time invading to a duel that could actually be described as a duel. And I think one of the primary reasons for that is that this person, you can tell by the damage they were doing to the NPC there, that they are about the same level as me. And I'll explain how I know that other than that one piece of evidence in a moment. But first, I just want to, I tend, when I invade someone, to walk closer to the fog gate, so that way, if I do kill them, they don't have to go very far for their souls. And this person didn't want to bow, but so you can see we gained 1,042 souls from that invasion, which equates to soul level 42. And the reason I know that is that on the wiki.Dark Souls wiki, and this person was AFK, seemingly, but so I waited until they were ready to fight. But yeah, if you look on the Dark Souls wiki, it states that the amount of souls that you get when you kill a host as an invader is 10% of that which it took them to level up to their current level. So 1,042 places that host at level 42. This host, on the other hand, as you can see, was using Crystal Magic Weapon, Homing Crystal Soul Mass, and flipping around wearing not the lightest armor in the world. I respected them for the fact that their gamertag was a reference to Nadalia, the Bride of Ash from Dark Souls 2, but felt bad that I was kind of wasting their time being so underleveled. relative to them, so I tried to see if I had anything of value to drop for them, but I didn't. And then just decided, okay, well, I guess I'll just try to fight them straight up and try to kill them. But I don't know why this bothered me so much, but this person was clearly not just going to put me out of my misery. They thought they were going to be cute and dance all around using the flip ring, and that just really, really annoyed me. So at a certain point, I just decided, okay, I'll just stand still, because this person clearly doesn't want to fight, even though they can kill me in one shot, because they're so overleveled compared to me. So then the very next invasion, I found myself back in Bride Nadalia's world. So this is the third time that I've invaded this person. And if I had to lay out my character flaws, I guess, one of them would probably be that I can tend to be a little bit vindictive when someone really annoys me or really makes me angry. And so to that end, as soon as I invaded and saw that it was this person again, the gears started working in my mind, trying to think, how the heck can I get this person back for, dancing around and trying to be cute when I just wanted them to just put me out of my misery. When I initially invaded, I thought, why don't I just jump off the cliff? But then I was like, I don't really want to give them the satisfaction of that. And then I remembered a trick that I saw in Franz, a German Spy's Rust and Relaxation playthrough of Dark Souls 1. And this is not something I've ever done before. But you can see right here, you can safely jump from Darkroot Forest to Darkroot Basin. And why would I do that, you ask? Well, when I first got summoned into the world, I saw that Nadalia was summoning a dark spirit. And surely enough, the dark spirit was eventually summoned. And so I figured this person is so incredibly overleveled. The best I can do is try to annoy them in turn by having me in their world in the back of their mind, and then just kind of standing back and watching as they duel invaders of a presumably commensurate level. So I knew this person was overleveled, especially compared to me, but I had no idea that they were level 506. So yeah, revenge exacted, I guess, kind of, maybe. Hello everyone, this is Aegon of Astora, and welcome back to my casual playthrough of Dark Souls. This is episode 9, and it is Friday the 14th of August today, and I hope that each and every one of you out there is having a fantastic day today. As you just saw, we picked up an simply obscene number of souls for someone at our level. And as I wanted to touch on, but I didn't have enough time because of all the fast forwards and whatnot during the post-commentary segment you just saw, I've spent a fair bit of time farming, but in the hours I spent farming, I didn't accumulate nearly as many souls as we have on our person now. So you'll notice that we are in hollow mode, and that's simply because we needed to come and talk to Alvina, and I didn't want to take any chances walking around with 400,000 souls before we did that. Because, yeah, our goal in doing those invasions, and there were many, many more that I didn't actually show on camera. That wasn't, it didn't only take me 6 invasions to get 3 victories. It took many more. But our goal, once again, was to get 3 successful invasions so that we could get our hands on the Ring of Fog. So let's do that.
Ah, thou dost cometh. How fares ye? My hopes for thee are of the highest. Do not such a hope shatter with foul disproportion. Ah, yes, here is thine reward. It is for thee. Take it. Make no attempt to show thyself as hollow.
Crap. Maybe the 3 victories was merely for the Divine Blessing? I thought that was for the Ring of Fog, or maybe we just need to talk to her again.
Oh, thou art present. I have heard murmuring about thee. I like that which I hear. I felt of thou indeed as a special one. The very moment mine eyes first set upon thee. Here's a precious reward. It is for thee. Take it. May thine skill earn thee many more.
Oh, thank gosh. I guess the Divine Blessing is for 1 victory, and the Ring of Fog is for 3, which, not very high thresholds. But it did still take a fair amount of time because, as I wanted to touch on in the first segment, we are very, very over-leveled for this part of the game, but we are under-geared. So, and we also picked up in the course of the crazy amounts of farming I did off camera, a Balder Side Sword, which is a weapon that I have had before, but I don't think I've ever actually used it for any prolonged period of time, so we're going to use that for a little bit. But you see, yeah, only +5, our Balder Shield's at +6, and our armor's all at +3. So we are over-leveled, but that kind of serves as a disadvantage in a way when you're invading as a force invader, because you can invade infinitely upwards. And I'll put a link in the description in addition to the links for the wiki.pages pages that help you figure out what level a host is after you've defeated them based on the number of souls you receive. I'll put a link in the description to the Dark Souls 1 PvP soul level calculator, just in case there's anyone out there who, at this point hasn't seen it or isn't aware of it. But it shows that, you enter your level, and it'll show that when you're evading either with a full eye orb, a full red eye orb, or a cracked red eye orb, or as a member of the Cat Covenant, that you invade infinitely upwards. So, in case you were wondering how it is that I wound up invading Bride Nadalia, who was level, I believe, 506, that's why. So, when you're in this position where you're invading infinitely upwards, your level is kind of high, and your gear is really low level, then you're really not doing yourself any favors. So, kind of the downside to the insane amounts of farming I've been doing. But there are a number of comments. I got a backlog of comments that I've been meaning to get to. The last 2 episodes, as you likely saw, didn't go entirely as I planned. So as a result of that, I, found myself not able to get to all the comments I had on my list. But the first one that I wanted to get to today, which is rather fitting given where we are, this one was actually from episode 8, and it was by Lacunas, who writes Alvina, best Dark Souls NPC, also never realized the irony of a cat protecting a wolf by urging you not to visit Artorias' grave before hearing her dialogue again. And yeah, that's not really something I thought about either. That, yeah, here's a cat protecting a wolf, and, we expect, and I know wolves aren't exactly dogs, but we expect cats and dogs to be at each other's throats, so to speak. But Alvina is pretty tight, apparently, with Sif, and presumably with Artorias, or at least at one point was, but that's something we'll talk about more when we get to the DLC. I find it's funny we don't think about these little things. As with our discussion of the Embers in the last couple of episodes, there's certain things you come to take for granted you don't even think about, such as, a cat protecting a wolf, or even just the fact that this cat talks and is the leader of a group of bandits, which, yeah, pretty strange. But with all that said, we're going to use a Homeward Bone. And so, like I said, we're not really taking any chances. We are going to spend, I think, the majority of these souls on just stocking up on... I say that, and then I try to parry a hollow attack that I'm generally terrible at parrying. But we are going to spend the majority of the souls we have on hand on just supplies, things we need to get from the female undead merchant. So then that way, yeah, it'll at least lessen my off-camera farming time a little bit. And wow, this weapon really is beautiful. It's got both thrusting and slashing attacks. It's light. It has amazing dex scaling. Really awesome moveset. So yeah, I'm quite pleased to have picked this up. I love the rolling R1 especially. Very, very cool. But yeah, time for the Wonder Boy 3 merchant theme. Oh, fiddlesticks. I just realized I shouldn't have spent all my souls because we do need to buy a couple things from Shiva of the East when we get down to Blighttown. Oh, dagnabbit. Oh well. Yeah, let's say hello to the crestfallen warrior.
Ah, your face. You're practically hollow. But who knows? Going hollow could solve quite a bit. What? Restoring your humanity? Well, there are a few ways to go about it. Collect it bit by bit from corpses. Or you can butter up a cleric and get yourself summoned. And the quickest way, although I'd never do it, is to kill a healthy undead and pillage its humanity. Coveting thy neighbor is only human, after all. What are you looking at? Don't try anything clever. You might regret it.
He is not lying. As I mentioned I believe it was episode 1 or 2, I certainly regretted trying something funny when I tried to hurt the crestfallen warrior and wound up regretting it big time. Just as I'm just thinking more and more about how much I regret having spent all of those souls on buying almost 99 blooming purple moss clumps. Because, of course, now I can't use any of those souls on buying pyromancies, and upgrading our pyromancy flame, which I had planned to do. That sucks, but I guess I can't really complain about free souls. Well, all but 50,000 of those souls were essentially free souls. So I can't really complain about it, but...
By the Lords.
Thank you to both Lautrec and the Crestfallen Warrior for reminding me that I wanted to reverse my hollowing before. That I wanted to reverse my hollowing before we descended into Blighttown. There were some other things I wanted to do, but I, at the moment, can't remember exactly what they were, so we're just gonna head down to Blighttown. And while we're doing that, going to get to some more comments. So the next comment we have is from Zemeron, who on episode 5 asked that I expand upon my comment that I disagree very strongly with the notion of console exclusives. Zemeron writes, further, I can understand thinking they are not as profitable because they limit your potential consumer base, or disliking them as they limit what platforms you as a gamer can play the product on, but I don't really understand disagreeing with the notion of them. They aren't crippleware where people have added code to prevent you from doing things. They are projects funded with a specific focus in mind, which can often lead to higher quality products as a number of variables have been removed. Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. I guess what I was thinking about more so than console exclusives is the idea of exclusive DLC, say, where there will be, so, you know, for like a Call of Duty game or something, where they have an exclusivity deal, Microsoft or Sony, I don't know who has it, where, you know, the DLC for that platform comes out a month before that of the other one. And I say I don't want to continue picking on Destiny, but Destiny was a huge, massive disappointment to me as someone who spent a lot of time playing the Halo games prior to getting into the Souls games. Destiny was just a colossal disappointment to me. And that's not good. It's a really good thing we have 20 Estus. And a really silly thing that I didn't equip any of my moss. But yeah, in Destiny, for example, and the problems with exclusive DLC in that game are compounded by the fact that the game itself doesn't really have a whole lot of content to begin with. But I played Destiny initially on the Xbox 360, and for whatever reason, I guess stemming back to what I thought was an amicable breakup between Bungie and Microsoft, but for whatever reason, Bungie has this exclusivity deal with Sony. And I apologize for backstab fishing with these guys, but I really don't want to get wrecked by them. I've never been especially good at fighting them, and for whatever reason, thrusting damage doesn't really seem to be the best way. Oh, and so now that we have 99 dung pies, that's just going to create a bag on the floor. Same thing with that, because they all drop dung pies, as far as I recall. So Destiny, console exclusivity, is problematic because, again, the content in the game is already limited. And so they, you know, further gate off content just based on the fact that you happen to choose one console or over another. And while I guess, Zemeron, I can't really argue with you about, you know, with your points, with the points you made with respect to how, you know, console exclusives can be a good thing. Mostly because my comment, in addition to kind of being misdirected towards console exclusives, period, rather than, you know, DLC exclusivity. But also just because, you know, I guess the one thing I would say is that I don't particularly care about the profitability aspect of it, or, you know, about the notion that we... And I guess I disagree with the idea of, and I know this wasn't what you were trying to say, but the idea of people being labeled as consumers. And I guess to a certain extent I'm complicit in, or not to a certain extent, I'm certainly complicit in that, as is everyone else, because we live in this world and not another one. But, and this isn't making any sense, but let me just say that, you know, I don't see myself or anyone else as a consumer. I see people as human beings first and foremost, or at least I try to. So, in that sense, my somewhat unrealistic and certainly overly idealistic rejection, or not rejection, yeah, I guess I did say that I reject the notion, or that I disagree strongly with the notion of console exclusives. That comes more from a, idealistic place of, it really sucks that people have to choose between, PlayStation 4 or Xbox One to play certain games. And that's something that is especially... Pardon me for 1 second. That's something that's especially annoying for me. We're just going to go down to the bonfire. We're going to go deal with those guys later. It's especially annoying for me because up until the current generation, I've always played Xbox. And the reason for that, for the most part, is just that the Halo games. That from the days of Halo Combat Evolved, I was really, myself and my brothers were really into... Oh, gosh darn camera. Really into the Halo games. We used to do a heck of a lot of... Almost fell off there. Wow, I can already see the frame rate dropping. But yeah, we used to do a lot of, split screen Halo nights. We used to, before the days of Xbox Live, we would actually hook up our consoles to each other via LAN. And I was wondering where Shiva was. There he is. And yeah, we used to do, Halo LAN parties. And so we had a lot, and so a lot of that is, again, nostalgia. So I'm going to hold that thought for just 1 minute because we have Maneater Mildred, and we have a dragon scale here. And so what I tend to do is I like to bring her over here so that the flies don't get in the way. So we got 3 humanity and the butcher knife. I did clean up my inventory a little bit, but it's still kind of messy. Giant butcher knife wielded by the undead man-eating cook, lurking in the depths. More a tool for subduing and preparing live catches than an actual weapon. Those who have faced this deadly blade have a deeper sense of how helpless prey must feel. So linking Maneater Mildred to the female butchers that we fought in the depths. The ones who had Laurentius held prisoner. But yeah, so returning to what I was saying and making a long-winded answer shorter. Are we being invaded again? Because we can't light the bonfire. Alright. What's up with my leg? Aegon, what are you doing? A little gymnastics there or something? Or yoga. Gymnastics, that makes no sense. But yeah, so it came to the point where when the PS4 and the Xbox One were announced, that for the first time ever, thanks to Bloodborne, I had to actually choose between these games that I had grown to love even more than the Halo games, and the Halo games which, while I wasn't nearly as into them anymore, are at the same time something that I've done with my siblings. I've played Halo with my siblings since the first one came out more than 10 years ago. And that was a decision that I just felt terrible making. And granted, my siblings don't play video games nearly as much as they once did, so in choosing the PS4 over the Xbox One, and thus Halo 5, or thus whatever Souls games come out, or Bloodborne essentially over Halo 5, I wasn't losing a whole bunch of valuable gaming time with my siblings, but I was losing some. And so I guess that, more than anything, is the thing that if I'm going to disagree with the notion of console exclusivity. It's just the fact that it kind of forces people to make tough decisions like that. But to a certain extent, I guess that's life. And, I can't deny, as you pointed out, Zemeron, that sometimes it's just that's just the way it is, and some great games do come out of it. If you look at Nintendo, of course, there are a lot of examples there. But for a developer like FromSoft, and this is all in the context of me justifying, I guess, the reason why, and saying that it made sense, the reason why Bloodborne was made a PS4 exclusive. But all of this rambling is just to say, you know what, Zemeron, you're right. And when I said I disagree strongly with the notion of console exclusivity, I should have been more specific, because what I was thinking about in my head was timed DLC exclusive content, which, yeah, as I've said, I think is just really stupid. But yeah, all that aside, I was wrong in kind of stating it the way I did. And of course, just being overly idealistic about not wanting people to have to choose. But at a certain point, the alternative really, I imagine, would just to be have one console for everyone, for all companies to make games for. But that wouldn't work either, because then you have one company making consoles, and then you have to deal with the whole monopoly and just sitting back, kind of raising prices, things like that. So there's a constant battle in my head between the knowledge that I have about political economy, because I did study business management for my undergrad. So when I critique capitalism, things like that, I'm not doing it from a place of ignorance, but from someone who was very much within that world for many, many years. But I have this constant battle going in my mind between what I know from my time of being in that kind of political economic landscape, and my current situatedness as a scholar / activist who wants to change certain things about the way the world works, and wants to reject certain things that are just taken for granted. But yeah, I do have to remain realistic while doing that at the same time. Okay, so with all that said, before I move on to the next comment, I want to figure out what we're going to do first down here. And we do have 11,000 souls, so let's see if we can pop some more souls and go speak to Shiva. And we have no souls to pop. Okay, I'm going to take a sip of Gatorade, and then we're going to go explore a bit. Before I do that, I'll read out the next comment from the Redshirt 3000, who writes, "What would you like to see in a Bloodborne expansion, whether through story points, locations, or what enemies or bosses you would like to see?" And Redshirt also added that this seems out of place on this video, and the comment is from episode 5 of this series. But I thought of the question during your discussion of a Bloodborne 2, or if there wouldn't be anything else until a PS5. So it just made me think of the closest thing that we might get to a Bloodborne 2 would be the expansion / DLC. So to that, I would say first and foremost that you don't really ever have to apologize to me for bringing up something that seems out of place, or that seems kind of as an aside, because if you've been watching my videos for any length of time, you know that that's kind of how I operate. I often bring up things that are not at all related in a direct fashion to what's happening on screen. And so far be it from me to actually criticize someone else for that. And so yeah, you should never feel bad, especially if it's a question that was provoked by something that I said in the context of that given episode. You should never feel bad about asking a question that seems off topic. Just ask, and I may not be able to answer all questions, but I will certainly do my best to answer as many as I can. But yeah, with that said, let's, before I get to the rest of my answer, we're going to say hello to Shiva.
Hello again. Strange to meet away from the clan and the forest. But while you are here, how about some equipment? I love collecting these things, but I can only keep so many. And you know, you are a friend. I'll sell them cheap.
So we got the Look Skyward, which when I first started playing the game, I had no idea what that was supposed to symbolize, but it's I guess a face palm, and funnily enough, the exact same gesture, from what I can tell, that is used in Bloodborne when you use a hunter's mark or a bolt hunter's mark to return to a bonfire or a lamp. So let's see what he has for us. We definitely want to pick up an Uchigatana, and I wanted to do this, I wanted to get my hands on one because I always, and this is advice I would offer to anyone who's playing, that you should always have one semi-decent bleeding weapon on your person at all times, and you should have it organized in your inventory so that it's easily accessible. And the reason for that is quite simply that is cheaters. There are some people who have they have a hack save file where, and it doesn't work for all cheaters, but I guess I'll explain that in a minute, but for some cheaters they'll have something like 80,000 health, and bleed damage, which you can see under auxiliary effects on the bottom left. It does a fair bit of bleed damage, the Uchigatana, and when bleed procs, when your bleed meter fills up all the way up, it doesn't do a set level of damage. It actually reduces your health by a set percentage. So I think I've only ever killed a cheater in this manner twice, but it's so incredibly satisfying to do. Where basically this person, and I suppose that might be the reason why they were cheating, is that they were clearly just not very good at the game at all.
I see. You have a sharp eye for trinkets. Suits me fine. I'll be seeing you.
I'll be seeing you in a little bit, don't you worry. But yeah, so it just an incredibly satisfying feeling to have someone who has virtually or effectively infinite health, except when you're using a bleed weapon. And then when you get their build meter all the way up to the top, or their bleed meter all the way up to the top, and it procs, you do something like 30 or 40,000 hit points worth of damage, and do that 3 times and they're dead, and it's just so satisfying. And so it's really good. These freaking enemies and this frame rate, oh, it's awful. So really a sound piece of planning to always have a bleed weapon on hand. And there are ones like the reinforced club, but you do want to have one that has a fast move set, and one that has low stamina usage per hit. So let's have a look at the Uchigatana. It's a little bit heavier than you might expect it to be at 5 pounds. So with that, we're mid-rolling again. Might as well unequip the purple, because we have 92 of... I hate you guys so much. If you took out the flies, and if you addressed the frame rate issues, Blighttown would be just an awesome place. But yeah, so you have the Uchigatana. If you two-hand it, just nice, quick strikes. I guess that's not the most stamina-efficient weapon, but if you compare it to the reinforced club, which also does bleed damage and can be got for a heck of a lot cheaper and for less of a pain in the rear, I think it's better. I don't know, maybe that's just confirmation bias, because it is the weapon, the Uchigatana specifically, is the weapon that I use to kill those cheaters. But yeah, highly recommended that you have one of those on hand, and that you change and this is something that I wish they had brought back in any of the other games, the ability to move your inventory around like that. So what I do generally is, whichever weapon I have it equipped, I put it right underneath it, so that if I do run into a cheater, you can just quickly go into your inventory, and there you go. you got it. You got it ready, and then you just really just spam R1, because depending on the shield they have, even if they're blocking, you're still going to be building up their bleeding. So yeah, I know that that's something that most people probably know, but I have gotten a few comments from people who've said that they have been learning new things from my videos. So I will do my best to continue. If there is something that I think is somewhat obscure that people might benefit from knowing, then I will do my best to remember to bring those things up. And that's one of them. And there is another one, actually, which I'll get to in just a second. And I learned this from watching the videos of, I believe his name is Vegeta311. And I will, of course, put a link in the video description to Vegeta's channel. I don't believe Vegeta is making Souls videos anymore. He made a few Dark Souls 2 videos, but then stopped after that, but made a lot of really, really cool Dark Souls 1 content. And this is something I learned from his videos, is if you watch the stamina bar, when you mash the Y button, or I guess on PlayStation the triangle button, when you go one-handed, two-handed, one-handed, two-handed, you can see that the stamina bar actually sputters for a second. So if you're running through the swamp and you don't have the rusted iron ring on, if you just mash the Y button, you actually do save a little bit of stamina. Okay, so returning to Red Shirt's comment, and I think these things are infinite spawns, so if you're just standing around like I'm doing now, you're going to have a bad time having to deal with them constantly. But in returning to Red Shirt's comment, what would I like to see in a Bloodborne expansion? In terms of specific things I'd like to see, there's not a lot. Mostly because, as I said in my discussion of Dark Souls 3, that FromSoft always manages to shock, awe, and surprise me. And I don't want to, I don't want to... Crap, I don't think I should have picked that up. Oh no, because I think that's going to trigger Laurentius. But I always thought that okay, I'm going to put that aside for now, and we'll talk about that in the next episode, because there are a lot of potential implications to what I just did, and potentially screwed up. But that's why we're doing this before the Let's Talk Lore series, because it's been such a long time, and I don't remember a lot of the triggers for the various NPC quests. But yeah, so I don't want to make it seem as though I have the answers, I guess, that I have enough faith in FromSoft such that I don't think I really know better than they do to be able to say what should or shouldn't be in any of the expansions. But with that said, as a fan, and, in the context of my Let's Talk Lore series, the things that I've been thinking about is the possibility of, 5 green Titanite shards, very nice, is the possibility of us meeting Ludwig in the DLC in a similar manner to us meeting Artorias in the Dark Souls 1 DLC. Because it's a very different game now, Dark Souls 1, than it was back then in many aspects. And one of them is simply that when the game first came out, Artorias was just someone that we learned about in item descriptions. Never actually got to see him, or I believe you did have access to his one version of his shield and his sword, his great sword. But wow, we're getting a fair number of green Titanite shards. No large shards just yet, though. And so I think it'd be really, really cool if we met Ludwig. If Ludwig was a boss somewhere or something like that. Beyond that, all I can really say is just, I want more stuff. More weapons, more armor. I don't know, it's not technically armor, but more weapons, more armor, more firearms, potentially. I'm not sure to what extent I'd like to see the Chalice dungeons worked on at all. I don't really know what can be done there beyond just removing some of the more tedious ritual material requirements. And it would be nice, I hope that, and this is something that they addressed in the third DLC for Dark Souls 2, but the first two didn't have any new NPCs. Oh, and the frame rate here is awful. I'm sure that's probably going to throw my commentary out of sync. But yeah, it would be nice to have some new NPCs with new dialogue. But beyond new NPCs, a potential encounter with Ludwig and more weapons. There's really not all that much that, I'm prepared to say I want to see this, because I want to be surprised. And FromSoft always does surprise and generally pleases me. So, sorry for kind of the non-answer, but that's my answer. Next two comments, I think I am going to leave for the next episode because I've been recording for 40 minutes. And the frame rate. Oh, this is... I apologize for you watching on YouTube because I'm sure this isn't going to look pretty. And it's not my capture card that's doing this, but rather it's just the Blighttown frame rate on the Xbox 360 is just terrible. So I think I'm potentially going to explore the rest of the area off camera, just because this is really, really bad. But I guess I'll see. Up until this point, I've recorded 2 episodes at once. I am going to likely stop here for today. I might record a second one, we'll see what happens. And then I guess I'm going to continue to have a backlog of comments for now, which is unfortunate because I wanted to get to more than today, but I have rambled on and on a fair bit at this point. So I am going to call it there. In the next episode, we are going to go take on K-Lag. I will definitely be doing that on camera. But some of the more frame rate reducing intensive spots of Blighttown I might just do off camera. Or I might put it into a fast-forwarded montage. I don't know. We'll see. But in any case, thank you very much for joining me, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.